Good afternoon and welcome to the MICRC press conference to talk about the Senate remedial plan that was selected today by the commission. I'm happy to share with you that we have the following individuals participating from the commission. Commissioner Anthony Eid, who serves as the chair, who is unaffiliated. Commissioner Brittni Kellom, who serves as the vice chair and is affiliated with the Democratic Party. And Commissioner Cynthia Orton, who is affiliated with the Republican Party. Without further ado, we want to open it up. As many of you already know, that the commission selected through a ranked choice Crane A1 as the map. Without further ado, we'll open it up for questions to the commissioners. Thank you. Andy Miniger with MERS.
Yes, I'm wondering first off if you guys are expecting any pushback from the courts.
That's a good question, Andrew. I'll take it. Throughout this Senate remedial process, we followed the exact same process that we underwent when creating the House remedial plan, the Motown Sound plan. And both the person who the court appointed to evaluate the maps and eventually the court itself affirmed what the commission decided for that plan, the House remedial Motown Sound plan. So because we followed the same process, it is our expectation that a similar result will happen and the court will affirm the map that the commission adopted.
Anyone else with questions? Colin?
Hi, thanks for putting this on. I'm just curious because I know there was some pushback during the meeting. There was 5 rounds of voting before going to ranked choice, which is very different than the House process. Can you talk about kind of some of the considerations that caused everyone to, I guess, disagree on a final plan to begin with, and how it got to the point where
Colin, there's some background noise where you are. Can you either move where we can hear you clearly or something else?
Just one moment. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yes, continue, please.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm curious because I know during the House process, you were able to select a map after just a couple rounds of voting. This time it took 5, and then you went to ranked choice. I was wondering if Commissioners Kellom or Orton or Eid could talk to some of the concerns they had with the various maps that were proposed, and how you feel now that the Crane was the consensus after ranked choice.
I'll answer that first. I think this time, commissioners, the back and forth, the 5 rounds was about different perceptions of what the public was saying. There were deep and varying opinions and perspectives as to what members of the public were expressing when they were talking about their choices and things that they were noticing about, different neighborhoods, different maps, the way that the lines were drawn. I'll speak specifically. I don't think that Crane A1 is the best representation for what Detroit citizens and beyond have expressed. I think that we were charged with listening holistically, and I think that folks have been talking since 2021. And so it's just very simple to me, not just in terms of communities of interest, which is very highly ranked, but also with map metrics and the data that we received, and Crane consistently performed at the bottom half. So I think Crane A1 became a compromise map for some of the commissioners and the map of least resistance.
Commissioner Orton, would you like to add?
Sure. Yeah, I don't really know how to answer the question except for myself. I felt strongly that Crane A1 did answer the questions or the requirements that we needed to follow and what the court had ordered. And so I felt comfortable with Crane A1, and some of the commissioners did not. I'm glad everyone was able to vote their conscience and vote what they felt was best. And that just didn't turn out like the House plan did, or like any of our past votes did. But it's good that we had a process in place. We went to ranked choice. That's what the Constitution had us do, and we ended up with a map. So that's that.
It's a good question, Colin. And, I think there are some mixed feelings. We had quite a lot of rounds of discussion, and all of the discussion points that we made and why we made them are on the record. So I'm not going to speak to that. You can refer back to the meeting for those comments. But ultimately, what the three of us commissioners think doesn't matter. The commission speaks in one voice. We undertook a voting process, and while it did go to ranked choice voting, the commission still speaks in one voice, and that voice now is the Crane A1 map. That's what we have, and we look forward to it being confirmed by the courts.
Andy?
So after all of the public comment, this might be for Cynthia Orton. After all the public comment came out, it seemed like it was overwhelmingly for the Heron, the some of the other maps seem to be garnering a lot of that. And based on that, do you guys feel that you're safe from any more lawsuits, I guess?
Well, I won't necessarily talk about the lawsuits. I have no idea. Anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason, but I will say, for me personally, there were a lot of comments in these last couple weeks for particular maps, and I wasn't just listening to those voices. I was thinking back to the whole time, even to the first rounds, when we were drawing originally, and trying to remember the comments that we heard since then, because while we did have I'm not positive of the numbers, but 300 and some people the last round of public hearings just recently, and then the last few days maybe 100. I don't know the numbers, but that is a very small amount of people compared to the 600,000 that we were drawing for. So in my mind, that I took it into consideration, but I was also taking other things into consideration, as well as having talked to some of the people that did come and give testimony in the public hearings. After they spoke, and talking to them in person, they were kind of speaking on maybe something they had heard or something they were told. And when they looked at the maps, when they looked at more of the maps than they had considered previously, they liked Crane. And so I took that into consideration as well. And each commissioner has had different experiences, I'm sure, with the public, which we each, vote according to our experience and our conscience.
Thank you. I also pose that question to Commissioner Kellom.
I like good trouble, so I'm not afraid of pushback. I'm also not going to give the commission speaks in one voice answer. I think, that where that's relevant and it's not up to individual commissioners, as a whole, some of us made choices that just weren't simply expressed. Edward Woods III just had a table put up that gave map preferences and talked about likes and dislikes. And this is the first time being a part of the commission where there was a noticeable I will describe a noticeable tension in the room of deciding what we were listening to and what we weren't. And it kept being between the Kellom map, which was not, it was adopted as an individual map I did so that, um, members of the public could see the Phoenix map that was a collaborative map, the televersion 3, and then Crane A1, which was a modified version of Crane that came from an individual map Curry. So I think if the public is paying attention to what was expressed this morning, what was expressed throughout our hearings, what was expressed back when we started this process, and if they are advocating for themselves and if they get frustrated enough, sure, we could end up with a lawsuit, but I can't predict that. Do I think we could have gotten it better? Like I said before, absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. I also think that some voters who are disenfranchised, don't have a lot of knowledge about the process still, don't know what took place today, and are tired. And I think sometimes things in Detroit have fallen by the wayside because voters and citizens are not activated enough to participate in the process. So I will also not be surprised if folks do not hold Crane A1 accountable.
All right, are there any other questions? Want you to know that we're open and transparent. All of our stuff is on the commission website regarding meeting materials. With regards to the close-up report, if you're referring to or what have you. I noticed, Andy, that there's a lot of questions with regards to what ifs, but if there's anything with regards to the actual process in terms of what took place, the democracy that took place, how the commission came together, with regards to that, I think that would also be helpful to sharing with the public. It's kind of hard, as some of the commissioners have shared, to speculate who's going to sue or to even anticipate what's going to happen in the courts. But what we can say is we did have our litigation counsel present, our local counsel present, our VRA counsel present to assist the commission in guiding them throughout the process. As Commissioner Eid shared last time, this was the same process that we used with regards to the House. It just took a little bit longer to rally behind a decision. But as you can see in the chat, the commission did reach a decision through ranked choice. Crane A1 had 43 votes. Zatella version 3 had 30 votes. Kellom, formerly known as Phoenix, had 29 votes, and Lang had 28 votes. So just kind of want to share that with you, share the public comment process, and also share with the many citizens that came out to participate, whether it was in person, remote, through the public comment portal or the mapping comment portal, that we really want to extend our appreciation for engaging in this process. As many of you know, we were under a court order, so the commission had to make sure that it complied not only with the court order, but the 7 ranked redistricting criteria as outlined in Michigan's Constitution, which took place. So if you have any questions regarding the process or something that you would like to hear directly from any one of these commissioners who were actively engaged in the process and participating and hearing it from their various perspectives, very happy to do so. But we can't really address all the what ifs.
Yeah, I do have one question that is about the process here at the end, and this is for all of the commissioners. How does it feel to be done with this process, even though there's obviously there's still more to come through the courts and whatnot, but how does it feel to be done with the maps out of your hands?
Well, it feels good to be done. I'm exhausted. I'm sure everyone else is exhausted and just ready to go home.
Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment. A lot goes into making all of this happen. A lot of education, a lot of trying to inform the public on what is going on, a lot of trying to educate folks on what we're doing and why we're doing it. And the only bittersweet part of this about me, now that we've finished the remedial phase of this process, is I'm still not sure if enough folks truly have an understanding of what we're doing or of the potential ramifications it could have on voting, especially when this next election comes up in 2026 for this Senate plan in particular. So it's bittersweet, but I echo what Commissioner Orton said. We're tired. We want this process to be finished. However, I remember thinking the same thing in 2021, and here we are again. So we can't predict the future. We'll have to see what happens.
Commissioner Eid stole my answer. Literally, I was going to say it's bittersweet. I think the part that I enjoy most is talking to the public and seeing them understand. And so even with my exhaustion, that's the part that I'll miss, the education piece, and also agreeing with what he said, still being very skeptical, even though it was like enormous progress, right? A lot of positivity among the commission and our interaction with the public and seeing folks interact with each other. I still think there's a little bit, more work that could be done in terms of helping folks to see the impact and influence that their voice will have, but you can't have everything all at once. My theory of change is that you plant the seed, but you don't necessarily get to watch the tree grow. So I can only be faithful for the future, and that there are lots of lessons learned from everyone.
I also ask Commissioner Orton this question. So this is for Commissioner Kellom and Commissioner Eid. What is your advice to the next commission?
I will say, even with a deadline that seems to be looming and it seems like it's 5 seconds later, I will say do a lot of work getting to know each other, do a lot of work listening. I don't think you can listen to the public enough, and do a lot of work to understand the communities that you're going to be eliciting feedback or soliciting feedback from. So with that, if you're building camaraderie, you don't have to be best friends, but it's very important that you have a working relationship with people. And there's going to be a lot of conversation. So it'll be important if you have a good ear to the public, and if you're putting your implicit biases aside. You don't have to be from a community where someone else is from, but you do have to be a good listener, and you have to believe what people are saying. You can't be skeptical of one word. And you are going to have influences, but the public matters most. And so I will say lead with that. And you're going to do a good job. Have lots of integrity, and don't be fearful. That's my last thing. You have to be brave to do this work. You can't have a weak backbone. You got to be able to speak up, and you have to be able to share, and you have to be willing to dig in and do the work.
Can you repeat your question, Andrew?
So what is your advice to the next commission?
That's a good question. I'm sure we'll be putting together a report of best practices and things we learned going forward for the next commission. So just so there's some context, this is the first, and this, but for the public watching, this is the first independent redistricting commission in the state of Michigan. It's one of only a few across the country, and really, if you compare us, the ones across the country, we're probably the most independent of all of them. So there's certainly a lot of lessons to be learned. What I would say is take what this commission did and improve upon it. What we had to do was go from a gerrymandered map that was created by politicians and start from scratch, because that's what the public wanted. And in starting from scratch, it created a heck of a lot more work than it would be to just simply improve upon what this commission has already laid the groundwork to do. There's an expression I say quite often: you can't let perfect be the enemy of progress. And we have certainly made progress in creating a more fair democracy for the state of Michigan. But we're not at perfect yet. So my hope is the next commission comes along and continues to make progress in pursuit of that perfection.
Thank you. That's what I got.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from member of the press? I see WDIV News is here, and you could be here for recording purposes, which is fine. We have no qualms with anyone recording this open and transparent press avail. Okay, if not, I would like to take the opportunity to thank so many people that have been a part of this effort. Our translators who translated in Arabic, Bengali, as well as in Spanish, the Michigan Department of State, Election Data Services, our mapping consultants, our Voting Rights Act Counsel, Baker Hostetler, specifically Mark Braden, Taylor Thompson, and Dr. Maxwell Palmer, who was the analysis expert. Our legal counsel, Fink Brussick, Nate Fink and David Fink. Our litigation counsel, Baker Hostetler, which was led by Kate McKnight, Richard Riley, and Patrick Lewis. I'd like to thank Chase Creative and their team that provided our audio visual service. Definitely like to do a shout out to Close Up that was led by Tom Ivaco and 3 students. One of the lessons learned that Commissioner Eid referred to the last time, as many of you know, we did a lesson learned report, was to aggregate the data so that commissioners could have something in real time. And they provided that with their data analysis that is open to the public. If you go to our meeting materials and information, and just really want to thank them for that. Also would like to thank Regional Interpreting, Bethany and her team for all the sign language that they did in scheduling. This is an enormous task with regards to that. And then last but not least, QA Captions, who did our closed captioning. We're very fortunate, as Commissioner Eid and I shared earlier today, that we had COVID, because if we didn't have COVID, we would be asking the legislature for money, because all of our meetings would have been in person, and our budget would not have been able to suffice. So we definitely want to thank them. And then I'd like to thank all of our communications and outreach team, the people that got it out to the public. We really want to thank them tremendously. Our contractors for both the House and the Senate, McConnell Communications, 98 Forward, and Culturate Public Relations. Just want to thank all of them for the work that they did, the community-based organizations that got the word out. We were trying to get into the neighborhoods and across Southeast Michigan during the House and Senate remedial phases. Really want to thank all of them for the work, and also those who actually took the time to put in a mapping comment, a public comment, a remote comment, or coming to an in-person meeting. It's that type of democracy that makes the difference. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the purest form of democracy, by the people, for the people, and with the people. The distinguished Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, all 13 of our commissioners, as well as the previous 3 that served prior to the beginning of this year. I just want to make sure we give a proper shout out and thanks. If there's nothing else, we'll conclude this press avail.
I'd like to thank the press corp as well. You know, y'all are kind of partners in this as well, as far as getting the news out there to the public. You know, the meetings are long. We've had coverage from pretty much the same core group of press pretty much this entire time. So shout out to y'all for doing your job and keeping the public informed on the process.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Eid. Commissioner Kellom or Commissioner Orton, any other final comments?
I would just,
No, go ahead, Commissioner Orton.
I would just echo the thanks to all the people who helped, and the thanks to the press for being here, paying attention to what's going on, and helping the public understand. Appreciate that.
And thank you so much for having us here today and giving us the opportunity to express ourselves and reflect on the process.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. If you have any questions or any follow-up, you can give me a call at 517-331-6309. Have a good evening. Thank you again. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody. Have a good one. Drive safe.